Welcome to episode 664 of the Entertainment 2.0 podcast, brought to you by thedigitalmediazone.com. I'm Josh Pollard.
And I'm Richard Gunther, and this is the show that puts you in control of your favorite movies, music, shows, and games. And we're back like we have been for the past few weeks, every 6 days for some reason.
Right. We keep screwing with the recording schedule, leading to, I think for the first time in 664 episodes, us recording on a Sunday afternoon.
Live, no less.
Live, that's right. I wondered if this recording might have to be delayed because of a potential Lions game going in overtime, but nope, they won it in regulation. Yay. What a great season it's been for the Lions so far. I'm even wearing my Lions jersey for anybody who might be watching us live or watching the YouTube video. If you're not watching the YouTube video, head on over to that channel. Subscribe to us, ring the bell for notifications. Richard, we've got some fun stuff to chat about this week. Sonos, apparently all is right in Sonos land, and they've got 2 new products to announce. Amazon has a new Fire TV stick, and no matter how you use YouTube, there are new updates for you. So let's jump in because we don't have any listener feedback this week. If you'd like to send us some for next week, the email address is entertainment20@thedigitalmediazone.com. So jumping right into the video news this week, Amazon's got a new Fire TV stick. It is just called the Fire TV Stick HD. It's really not much more than a rebranding of the previous model. The specs are basically the same. The one cool thing that's changing is it's actually less money than the previous one. So this one, at only $35, it's $5 cheaper than the previous model. And that's despite the fact that it includes, hopefully, all right, we'll just say Amazon's voice assistant, that A lady. It has one of those remotes that's powered by the A lady also for only $35. As the name suggests, it tops out at HD resolution. If you want to hook this up to a 4K TV, you can, but you're only going to be streaming at HD. So really good deal for maybe some of your secondary TVs around your household that might not be 4K, or maybe they're just TVs that you don't care that much about them having a full 4K experience. For $35, you can get an updated streamer on those devices. If you are looking for a 4K streamer, man, Amazon's got you covered there too. Nothing new on that front, but they have 3 different 4K devices, which seems like too many 4K devices. There's the Fire TV Stick 4K, which is $50, so $15 more than this HD version. The 4K Max, which is $60, which basically just gets you extra storage on the device for holding more apps and things like that. And then the Fire TV Cube. Richard, I did not realize that the Fire TV Cube now cost $140. Like, I mean, we don't talk about this device all that often, but right. I thought it was like $100 or $110 or something like that, and it's now $140.
Yeah, I don't remember what the history of this is specifically, but I thought that they had revved this a while ago, and when they did, they upped the price on it as well. So that could be the explanation for that. Remember, again, the TV Cube has a multi-function role. It is not only your TV streaming box, but it's also an A-Lady device that is designed to hook into your television and specifically control your television the way you might normally with the remote if you used voice control from the remote. So it's kind of a cool device. I don't have one. I've never had one. I do know some people who've used them that say they're surprisingly good. And I would expect that to be surprising.
Well,
So
that shouldn't be surprising, right? If you're dropping $140 for your streamer, it better be good.
sure, but the whole idea of the speaker and the microphone being right next to the television and potentially near its speakers, and you're trying to control it from that, and you're not there, you're across the room. I just don't know how that all works all that well, but apparently it does. So, yeah. But I mean, on the low end here, if you're looking for an inexpensive streamer and you're in the Amazon ecosystem, $35, that's a great price. That's the kind of pricing you see on SKUs specifically created sometimes for different retailers. Like, for example, Walmart might go to the big providers and say, hey, we want to sell your device, but we're only going to charge $30 for it. You need to come out with a different SKU for us.
Right.
And this is now competing with those kinds of prices.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Updated device, good remote, like fully featured remote for only $35. All right, let's move into YouTube updates. Apparently, I didn't really realize this about YouTube, but they try and do a big round of updates every year. And this is the big round of updates, but they're obviously always releasing smaller updates and tweaks throughout the year. But this is their bigger launch of updates across all of the ways that you could be using YouTube, whether that's on your phone, on your TV, on a web browser. There are kind of updates here for everybody. Now, some of these I think are out now. Some of these are coming later. One of the updates is the ability to more accurately control playback speed. In the link or in the article that we're going to link to here in the notes over from Thurrott.com, they say that you can adjust those playback speed increments by 0.05 times, which is really, really fine tuned, if that's true. I have not seen this update in the devices that I've tried it on yet. I still, like when I click the playback speed thing, I still see 1x, 1.25, 1.5, 2x, that sort of thing. Having more fine-tuned control seems nice, but that detailed, who needs it to be like, 1.5 is just too much. What I'm really looking for is 1.505x. Like, I don't quite get that. And maybe it's more in the other direction. Maybe it's slowing it down a lot more is the use case there. I could maybe see that, especially if you're trying to watch instructional videos or something. I don't know. Maybe. Like somebody must want this, right? Or else they wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
They've also got a new resizable mini player. So I think this is more common on like big screen phones and things like that, where you're watching a video, but maybe you're looking for what's going to be the next one. And you can now just resize that little mini player that appears typically at the bottom of the screen while you're searching through search results for the next thing that you're trying to find. They're also making some changes to playlist. You can create your own playlist in YouTube, and one feature that they're going to be adding is allowing you to upload your own custom thumbnail for the playlist. This makes a ton of sense, and I think it really helps if you're trying to make playlists that are going to be showing up in search results because of, playlists that you're trying to put together for some visibility. Of course, there's always an AI angle to everything here. So if you don't want to upload your own custom playlist, you could let AI come up with its own thumbnail for you instead of having to make one on your own. Whether or not I would consider that AI, maybe not. Richard almost definitely would not consider that AI. And then one other update to playlist. Later this year, they're going to allow user voting of the videos within playlist. And then as people are voting on videos within playlist, they're going to add a feature that will allow you to sort a playlist by top voted. So I didn't know that people were using playlist this much in YouTube. I've got a few of my own playlists, but I pretty much only use them for like folders of bookmarks is what I use them for.
No, exactly. Exactly. I think that's what most people use them for. I'm surprised to hear that anyone cares how they're sorted.
Right. Yeah, it's like, here's my folder of car-related videos, and here's the guitar ones. Like, I don't need to sort these in any way. It's just, I know I had that video for that one song. Yeah, I don't know. People must be using this for things other than just bookmarks. So if that's you, congratulations. All right, one feature that I think will be a lot more broadly used is a sleep timer. You know, I was kind of amazed that this didn't already exist, although maybe it's actually not in YouTube's interest to even have this feature, because it's exactly what you would expect out of a sleep timer. You say, hey, YouTube, I'm planning to fall asleep within the next hour, so stop playing videos in an hour. And that makes sense for you as the user, but for YouTube, that just means that they're not displaying as many ads. Now, if they've got some way of tracking actual viewability of those ads, then this makes sense, because advertisers do not want to be paying YouTube to show ads to people who are not seeing them. That doesn't make any sense. But how they would know that? Well, you can let the conspiracy theories go crazy on how YouTube knows whether or not you're actually watching ads that are being played. But, you know, sleep timer, great functionality that I think will definitely get some use. I think there's a lot of people that are picking sleep music playlist, Richard. See, maybe that's where the voting comes in.
There you go.
A sleep music playlist to fall asleep to. This last one is the one that I'm the least excited about. They're saying that they're going to make YouTube channels more immersive on TV. And immersive sounds like a good thing, but what it actually means is that when you're in the YouTube app on a TV device and you go into somebody's channel, it's just going to automatically start playing video. I don't want it to do that.
Right.
I want to pick a video before it starts playing. And maybe like this kind of makes me feel like crotchety old man mode, but like if I want to watch a video, I want to see that video and I want to see all of it. I don't want to start scrolling through the channel's various videos and then decide that I wanted to watch that first one that automatically started playing, because then I'm going to feel like I need to rewind it to the beginning. I just don't like this feature.
Yeah, and more importantly, it's going to automatically put that in your history. And maybe whatever happens to be in that channel as the first video or the autoplay video isn't something you want influencing what you see in the future. So I don't like this at all. This seems like what every streaming service is doing, where when you pull up a title, it starts to automatically play it. Or if you hover too long over a tile, it automatically starts to play it with audio. And most of those services have at least learned that some customers don't like this and at least want to be able to turn audio off, if not also the video. So it'll be interesting to see how this gets received, because I'm with you. Stay off my channel lawn.
Perfectly said. All right, well, let's move on from being grumpy at YouTube to I don't know. We'll see how Richard actually feels. We've got Sonos news, and it's Sonos news about new products. So this isn't just a story about us complaining about their mobile app, but there is a mobile app tie-in here, because the last time you heard us talk about Sonos was when they announced a new initiative around quality that they had heard listener feedback, very, very clearly, and said, as all of the steps that we're taking to increase quality across the Sonos ecosystem, one thing we're going to do is put the pause on releasing any new features until we really feel like quality across the board, but especially in the mobile app, is improved. Well, apparently they're feeling like they have made their quality improvements because in the last few days they announced 2 new products that are launching before the end of the month. So what's coming out here? Well, it's a new soundbar. It's the Sonos Arc Ultra. So this is one step above their previous top of the line soundbar, which was the Sonos Arc. This one, it uses some new technology that they're calling Sound Motion, and this is technology from a company that they acquired about 2 years ago, and they make some pretty big claims here. They say that this Sound Motion technology is one of the most significant breakthroughs in audio engineering in nearly 100 years. That's pretty significant.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, that's a lot. They are setting themselves up for high expectations.
Yes. Yeah. They say that this unlocks greater clarity, depth, and balance than ever before possible from a soundbar this sleek. That feels like putting a bunch of constraints on it, but we'll go with it. This thing has 14 speakers inside of it, so they're saying that just from the soundbar alone, you will get a 9.1.4 audio experience. Let's break down those numbers real quick for people. The first number, the 9, that's the if all of these numbers actually represented physical discrete speakers, that would mean that you would have 3 speakers in front of you and then another 6 surrounding you. Essentially, that's where the other 9 come in. Yep. The second number, the 0.1, that's a subwoofer. So you would have a subwoofer. And then the third number, the 4 at the end, that's supposed to be the speakers above you. So they're saying 9.1.4 experience from the soundbar. Now, that's not exactly a new concept. Lots of soundbars claim to give you a full surround sound, including height speakers above you type experience. Right. We'll see how well it actually performs there. One other feature that this has that separates it from the regular Arc is that you can use this as a Bluetooth speaker. I just kind of assumed that most of these could be used as Bluetooth speakers, but apparently not. And now
that's a newer feature.
Ultra, you can.
It's a newer feature, and they haven't really rolled that out until their newer line of products. Really, I think the Era products were the first that included these consistently, other than their the Move and the whatever it is that I have, the 2 portable speakers.
Yeah. Is that the Roam?
The Roam.
Yeah.
So for their prior generation, and the Arc is a prior generation speakers, they didn't have any Bluetooth capability at all. So it's nice to see this roll out, and it's a sign that, okay, if they're putting this on your soundbar, then they're probably going to put it in every new speaker they make.
Yeah, for sure. Like the portable speakers totally make sense. You're taking them outside of your Wi-Fi network, but the soundbar in your house that's always going to be connected to your internet, that's a different situation.
Yep.
All right, the soundbar is not the only new thing. They've also got a new subwoofer, the Sonos Sub 4. Don't read into that number and think, is this really only a 4-inch sub? No, it's just the 4th generation of their subwoofer. So, all right, well, let's talk pricing and release windows around this. The Arc Ultra, $899. That is $100 more than the Arc. And the Sonos Sub 4, $799. I really don't feel like there's that much to say about the new sub. It's a new sub. It looks a little different. They say that it's got new technology and stuff in it, but I don't know. Am I being too simplistic in saying it's a subwoofer?
You're missing the most important thing. It is no longer piano black. It is finally matte black.
That will help with dust. and fingerprints.
Yeah, and just not looking hideous, right? I mean,
Right.
I just don't understand what they were thinking with the piano black. They were trying to create something that was a statement. And I think what they've learned is that people don't want their speakers necessarily, particularly a subwoofer, which is hard enough to try and find a place for
Right.
without it sticking out and being bright and shiny. So
Yeah.
I think this is an important design decision on their part, and probably the best new feature of this sub.
Right. Yeah. The subwoofer is the speaker that you're trying to hide from your spouse, right?
Right.
Like, I'm trying to put this in a place that it's going to be effective, but that you won't notice it. So making it more invisible will definitely help, especially when you're paying $800 for one of these subwoofers.
Yeah, for sure. Now, as far as the new soundbar, I mean, I think this is a nice improvement, and it's only $100 more than the current line. So yeah, I think I paid, well, whatever the 900 was, less the 30% trade-in that I had that I was able to use on that. So I did get mine at a slight discount. But I think if I were in the market for this, I would consider this product again. I know there are many people who are more concerned about really, really good audio who just don't like the ARC in general. Maybe, we don't know yet, but maybe this will address some of their concerns. I've been fairly satisfied with my ARC. I like that it solves problems for me. I want a surround experience. I don't want to have speakers all over the place. So I just have the rear speakers added on in addition to the soundbar. And I didn't have a lot of space for it. So it fits nicely right below the television on the television stand. And I don't really have to worry about much else. If you're really looking for high quality 914 audio out of your home theater system, this probably isn't going to be you. This is for someone that wants to be able to solve a problem with technology. But also consider your room plays a big part in how well this will work and how good it's going to sound. I have my TV and thus the soundbar underneath it in the corner of a family room that opens into an otherwise open floor plan space. So I'm not going to get good reflection of these different channels off of the surfaces it's designed to bounce off of. It's just not going to give me great audio. And that's going to be true even of a new speaker like this. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about a soundbar as a solution. And I'm not saying don't get it, but just set your expectations accordingly.
Right. No, I think that's really, really smart to point out, Richard, because it can still sound really good. It's just the space that you're putting it in. The biggest limiting factor there is its surround sound performance. What's coming straight at you, very high potential that this thing is still going to sound really good, as the ARC is, the regular ARC is probably doing for you right now. But in an open air, the open layout like you've got, you're probably going to need some actual real physical speakers near you. And bass is funny. Like it's going to make that the placement of your subwoofer really, really important in a setup like that, because bass waves are enormous. They bounce really weirdly. If you've got an open layout, I don't care how big this Sonos Sub 4 is, it won't be big enough to really pressurize an open layout place like a family room in a house like yours, which is a very common layout nowadays. So you're going to have to do the subwoofer crawl. Put that subwoofer in the place where you're going to sit and then wander your ears around the room to find out, where does it sound really good on this spot on the floor? Because that's the place where you need to put the subwoofer, because it should go back and work the same way. Now, obviously, double check, but your subwoofer placement is going to be immensely important if you're going to go that route in a not tightly controlled listening environment.
Yeah,
all right.
Agreed. But before we get off this Sonos release, though, you mentioned something up front that I just want to revisit. You mentioned that they had announced that they weren't going to release any new products until they got their act together. And so the big question is, did they really get their act together? Or did they just realize, if we're going to get these products out before the holiday season, we need to do it now? And,
well, you tell me, did they get their act together?
Well, I've been out of my main home for the last 4 weeks, and I haven't had a chance to really exercise any updates that they've released to their app. But I can tell you that they finally let me edit a playlist.
What?
And my queue in their app now. And you may remember that was one of the biggest complaints, is that if you created a playlist on the fly or a queue on the fly, you had no way of editing it. There was no way of removing things from it or sorting things. You could only really just delete it and start over, and that was just absurd. So they finally added that capability in. They've added a lot of the missing functionality. So over the next week or two, I plan on pounding on this a little bit more and getting a better idea of just, how things look here.
Yeah. And they do say that they will be releasing a new version of the app at the same time that these products go on sale at the end of the month, and that 90% of the previous app's features will have been restored in that version of the app. So if that's true, that seems pretty good.
Yep.
And they've already got some of the biggest ones, as you mentioned, added in your queue, added in playlist, things like that. So, all right. Well, Richard, last week, what was going on in your entertainment center was surprisingly little.
Yeah, I think it was a record low on what I've been doing, both in terms of volume and content, because it was Big Brother. But a little bit more, not much, a little bit more. I mentioned that I think 2 weeks ago that I had started third season of Heartstopper. I basically powered through that this past week and watched the rest of season 3. Love that show. And I hope it gets renewed, because it's just a really wonderful, heartfelt set of stories. Abbott Elementary season 4, believe it or not, has started. So I've started watching that, and I'm up to date on that. And I was so far behind on podcasts that not even a 6.5 hour drive home yesterday caught me up entirely. I still have probably about an hour or two remaining to be up to date on my podcasts. And then maybe I'll get to, listen to a book, or maybe watch some random TV, because I have something like 17 shows that I've started but haven't finished yet, Josh. So I hope to get back to some of them one day.
That would be good.
It would be good.
Well,
how are you? What have you've been watching or playing or whatever?
Kind of the opposite of you. A lot of little, I don't know, like little, just trying things out here and there. So I'm going to go kind of out of order of what I've got in the rundown in our notes here. First off, I've had a game on my Steam wish list. It felt like it must have only been for a couple of years. Turns out this game came out in 2018. It's called Star Control Origins. The only reason this game was even on my wish list, this is a pretty small title, but this was a game that I played on PC with my best friend in elementary school, all the time. Wow. Star Control. the original one. Like this was way back in the day where their way of preventing piracy of video games was to do physical things like in the game book that you would have to turn to page 47 and enter the third word, that sort of thing. This one had like a dial where you had to like twist the rings in different directions and it would come up with a word or a symbol or whatever. That's how old we're talking here. And for people who are under the age of like 25, they have no idea what we're even talking about, right? So this is a follow-up to some of those very classic games. This was a nostalgia play for me. I believe it was $3 on sale right now, which is like 95% off. And I'm like, for $3, I'm going to buy this game and see if it's any good. It's fine. I played a half hour, 45 minutes of it. I might play more eventually. But it's maybe not, game of the year sort of material here. Also, that's a PC game, which a lot of you who really pay attention to what I'm playing know that I don't play PC games very much because my PC isn't very good. But I had been spending more time on my PC and decided, let's grab a controller and plug that in and play some other games too. And so I dusted off Super Woden GP2 again, the first time in many months that I've played that. It's like a isometric top-down-ish sort of, it's almost like an ode to the old Gran Turismo games. Very similar playback loop, buy new cars. You can only do certain events. You have to unlock them slowly, so it depends on, like, you kind of have to buy the cars in order and stuff. It can almost be a little bit punishing in that way. But it's kind of fun, and I've had that for a while. Also, a game that I've had on my wish list for a few years, I don't know how many years, not as long as Star Control Origins, a role-playing game called Disco Elysium. And this came back top of mind for me for two reasons. It was on sale again, and there were multiple news stories about some of the original developers of this game announcing new games that they're working on. And like all of these headlines would be like something along the lines of developers of Disco Elysium, one of the greatest role-playing games of all time, have a new game coming out. And I'm like, all right, fine. Like maybe it's time for me to just bite the bullet and the next time it goes on sale, buy it. And it's on sale on Xbox again. But I was at my PC and I'm like, just kind of poking around and thinking about buying it there too. Who knows? And I open up Steam and I'm looking through my Steam library and there's Disco Elysium. I apparently bought this at some point. I don't remember buying it. It's like maybe it was free in one of these many services like Epic. It wouldn't be Epic or else it wouldn't be in my Steam store. Maybe, but at some point I acquired Disco Elysium legally, mind you. And so I stayed up way too late because it was already time for bed when I discovered it. But I'm like, well, I have to try it now. And so I played the first half hour or so. Really interesting, very story driven. There is no combat. You are a very interesting detective in the future trying to solve a crime. I will play more of that in the future. But then also, I was talking to Joe DeStasio, friend of the show. He was on just a few episodes ago. He was the one that I was playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake with. And he asked me last week, so do you want to play the original Final Fantasy VII now? And I'm like, I don't know, do I? And he said, well, they've got the updated version of it, not the remake, but, still the old school graphics. It's available on everything. And they added a bunch of quality of life tweaks to it that you can enable really easily, where you can do things like speed up the gameplay by 3x so that you walk way faster. You can turn off random encounters if you just don't want to deal with getting into random battles, trying to get from point A to point B. You can push a button during battle scenes to automatically give you max health and max strength so that you can get through battles way faster. Like it feels to me like Final Fantasy VII for busy dads. Like the only thing that I wish it would have added was the ability to save anywhere. Like that's the one thing. You still have to go to specific points within the game to save. Outside of that, dude, it's got all of the stuff that I'm looking for to be able to blast through Final Fantasy VII and still get the experience that I would want to get out of it. So it's also on sale on Xbox for like $6.50 or something. So I picked that up too and installed that. And I've played an hour and a half of that so far. But I imagine I'm going to be able to tear through Final Fantasy VII pretty quickly with all of those cheat codes enabled. That's it for games. And then in terms of movies, none. Way too busy for movies right now. For TV, it's just been sports. The Lions played today. I watched some Lions football. I watched some Penguins hockey. That's it. Last week, I mentioned I was starting 2 new books. One of them ended up being pretty good. It is called The Haunting of Ashburn House. This is a scary book that Jen recommended to me. I'm trying to read some scary stuff before Halloween, of course. It's been a pretty good book. It's been good. I'm not quite done. I've got like an hour left. The one thing that I've noticed, I don't get scared by scary books. And I don't know if that's just because, I read books as audiobooks. Like, Richard, you and I have talked about this a lot. You and I both pretty much only read books as audiobooks. And when I'm doing that, I'm also multitasking. And maybe that's the problem. Like, I'm not fully engrossed in the book. So I don't get scared. Like, I can recognize that if I was the character in this situation, I would be peeing my pants and having a heart attack. But I'm not. And because I'm doing lawn work or whatever it is that I happen to be doing while reading these books, they don't scare me.
And that's a good thing, because that would not be an opportune time to have those sorts of reactions.
Right. Do you get scared by scary books?
So I think we'll probably be talking about things like this on a bonus episode.
We might be.
But I can't remember the last time I read a scary book as an adult.
Okay. Well, that would be pretty different then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've enjoyed this. Like I said, I'm almost done, and it's been a mostly well done book. Here's one weird thing that I noticed about it. So the audiobook has an American woman narrator, but I keep noticing British words. Like they mentioned the bonnet of a car, and they keep calling a flashlight a torch. And it's kind of weird to hear an American voice say things the way English people would say it.
Right. Clearly written by an English author,
right?
But then read by an American. Wow. Yeah, I can see that.
It doesn't like ruin the experience. It's just something that I noticed. I'm like, no one here calls a flashlight a torch.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. But pretty good. Again, that book is called The Haunting of Ashburn House. It's also fairly short. It's like 9.5 hours or something like that for the audiobook. All right. Well, that's what's going on in my entertainment center. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you can do that in a bunch of different ways. I'm on Twitter at Josh Pollard. The website is at DigiMediaZone. Richard is on Mastodon at Richard Gunther. Are you still, as far as you know, the only Richard Gunther on Mastodon?
I haven't checked recently. I should do that.
But maybe, probably. We've also been doing a pretty good job of getting these shows out while recording them live. But, we keep changing the schedule on you. So you probably want to either follow us on socials to know when we're doing these shows live, or show up to the Twitch channel and subscribe, because then Twitch will just automatically notify you as soon as we go live. But once we get back into a more normal routine, typically Tuesday nights around 8:30 p.m. Eastern. But that's going to do it for episode 664. He's Richard Gunther, And I'm Josh Pollard. Thanks for listening to Entertainment 2.0. Adios.
Goodbye.